All right, guys, we're back. We got another exciting episode of Meeting of the Minds today. Head coach from Seton Hill University. Is that right, Coach?
Yes, sir.
Marc Marizzaldi. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak with you today.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us about mindset and baseball in general. So let's start off. Seton Hill, you've been the only coach there ever, right?
Yes, I've been at Seton Hill for almost 18 years now, and I've been pretty fortunate to have an opportunity to start a college baseball program from scratch, which obviously brought about many challenges, especially at a school that had been an all-female school until I arrived there in
Oh, wow.
2003. So the many obstacles that we faced in starting a baseball program at a tiny little university also created many opportunities, ones that I think over the last 18 years we've been able to take advantage of and build a perennial Division II power program. So it's been a fun and enjoyable opportunity for me and my family here in Greensburg. But we're in some uncharted times now. We were off to a pretty decent season here this past spring, and then the bottom dropped out. And each and every day, we're just trying to figure out what's next. And there's really no answers. But with school starting in the next 6 weeks here, things are going to look completely different. So again, with the many obstacles that we've been faced, and we're going to continue to face as human beings, not just college athletes. Hopefully, we can find ways to make opportunities out of those obstacles.
Yeah, absolutely. That's funny. We talked about that a couple. Man, I've talked to so many great baseball minds in the last 2 weeks. It's kind of running together because a lot of them are saying the same thing, and that's beautiful. Those opportunities, because they're all around us if we look for them, right?
They certainly are. Yeah, this has been a difficult time for me. I'm used to spending 7 days a week on the baseball diamond in the springtime, and that abruptly came to a halt. And I've been homeschooling my kids and staying at home 24/7 with my two daughters. So something I'm not used to, but also a blessing. I mean, when will I ever
Right.
get to do that again in my life? Spend that much time with my children.
How old are they, if you don't mind me asking?
Two girls, 7 and 10. So those ages that you hate to miss those moments.
Yeah, crucial. And you'd miss them. I mean, you'd be gone 7 days a week. You'd probably spend an hour a day maybe with your kids if they weren't in bed by the time you got home.
Certainly. Yeah, the spring's a busy time, so I'm treasuring the time at home.
Absolutely. Great way to look at it, Coach. That is awesome. But 18 years, you built the program. Tell me what the fundamental principles, what's your core values? How did you get this thing going in that right direction, or the things you guys, latched onto?
Well, it's evolved over the last 18 years. I think there's some things like our core values continue to evolve year after year. But at the same time, I think there's a few foundational elements that we did 18 years ago and we still do today, things that your program is built upon. So when we first started our baseball program, we knew we weren't going to get the best players around, but we had to start with character. We recruited kids that were very blue collar, had some athletic ability, and really wanted to face the challenge of starting a college baseball program. So we may have sacrificed talent for character early on. As you continue to build it and have success, you're able to capture a little bit more talent and bring some more talented players into the program. But we realized we weren't going to do that at the expense of character. So I think no knock to the kids that we recruited 18 years ago. I think we probably have better athletes now. I think every college coach can say that. Football, wrestling, basketball, athletes have evolved. But our fundamental principles of making sure we surround each other with the best people possible, that doesn't change. What has changed is our core values. We always said we had some things we wanted to be really good at 18 years ago, and that's changed as the game has changed. But I realized that our core values had to be a lot stronger. They had to be lived out, not just words up on a billboard. So we've actually adopted 4 core covenants for our baseball program about 4 years ago, and they've held true. And we've kept those only because they seem to stand the test of time. And I think they're 4 core values that we can apply to every guy on the field, off the field, in the classroom, and beyond college athletics. So
that's great.
And a lot of that, I know we're getting into the mental game, but spending enough time reading and listening to Brian Kane and realizing that, that's something we had to do. We had to establish some core covenants that guided everything that our players did on and off the field.
And so, do you mind? Can you give us a couple of those, maybe one, or share them all? I don't know.
Certainly. There's a couple with some little bit deeper meaning, but we have 4 core values that we think we can apply to everything that we do. Our first one is fearless. It's a core value that we feel like as kids come to college to be part of our college baseball program, fearlessness isn't just, being tough and I'm not afraid of anything. But in the game of baseball, failure is huge. And that's probably the starting point in that core covenant for us is when guys come to college, acknowledging they're going to go through different experiences, they have to be willing to fail. They cannot be afraid of failure. They need to understand that it's feedback and it's a good thing. So fearlessness starts at the top about just being able to make changes to themselves and grow outside of their comfort zone. All the way down to not being afraid to get a bunt down in the 9th inning. And obviously fearlessness carries over to other parts of their lives. We want them to not be afraid to chase their dreams, to be the best student in their class, to go out and try to make $1 million after college, knowing that there's going to be some obstacles and failures ahead. But
you've done that enough. You've failed enough in college, right?
Certainly. Yeah. As being a college athlete, it goes hand in hand. You can't be afraid to fail, and you got to take those failures you experience on the playing field and figure out how to grow from them.
Right. And it makes you so much stronger in real life. I mean, that's what we love talking about, the virtue of sport, school, and life. You got to learn the tough lessons early, and you do that through sport. And when you get older, you can manage situations that come to you.
Yeah, no question. All of us that grew up playing sports, even if you didn't play in college, if you were just a high school athlete, so many of those experiences have shaped who you are as a person, all the way down to, those of us that played Little League, those days shaped us too. So
no
our second core covenant is uncommon. I think nowadays, it's so important for teenagers and young kids to be liked, to be approved of, to fit in, to get positive attention. You know what I mean? And I think to do that, the impression for young kids is I got to follow the crowd. I got to do what everybody else is doing. If I want to be liked, I got to fit in. But I think success is so far outside of that realm. I mean, if you want to be successful, sometimes you can't give a shit what other people think of you if you're chasing your dreams. So being uncommon is, not being afraid to stick out, not being afraid to do the dirty work, taking the difficult road rather than the easy road. One of the things in sport and in life is you're always given a choice, and sometimes it's not choosing what happens, but how you react. And nowadays, I think, grit, that's a whole nother topic and subject, but grit is really about, being uncommon and not quitting when things go bad and when you fail. So, and again, it ties into being fearless and understanding that growth happens outside of your comfort zone. And just being normal and fitting into the crowd isn't really going to advance you and grow. So being uncommon in everything that we do is another core covenant of ours. The third one is energy giving. That kind of just goes back to what we were taught when you're young. You get to it doesn't take any talent to hustle. And, you could be the least talented player on the team, but your enthusiasm and your attitude are 2 things that you choose every day. Those are up to you, what you bring in your attitude and your enthusiasm. So energy giving is really about, for young kids, creating an awareness that you do have control over some things in your attitude, how positive of a vibe you put off with your teammates every day. You get to choose how you respond to everything in life. Like most teams, we do, 5-hand lifting, and, sometimes it's tough to fire it up for that, especially for college kids.
Right.
We remind them when you walk in that door, man, you got 2 choices. You can be a fountain or a drain. And the more fountains we have in the room, the better atmosphere there is for all our players to grow. So energy giving, we want it to be a party in our dugout.
Nice.
We want our guys to just have as much fun as possible. And we know that positive energy can really breed positive energy. And another buzzword that seems to be out there that I think is a very powerful thing is mudita. taking as much happiness in other people's success as your own. And I think that starts with bringing positive energy every day, not celebrating just your successes, but those of others. Our last core covenant for our players and our program sort of ties in.
Yeah, and do you practice that? Those guys at their practice?
I'm sorry, what was that question?
Sorry, Coach, I'm getting discombobulated here. Hold on one second. Let me get settled.
No, you're good, man.
I was getting overheated again.
Yeah, I think we had a little bit of a delay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Do you practice that, like having them go around and tell people what they did well that day and things like that to work on that aspect?
In a sense, I think it's that comes from our leadership on our team. We do have a leadership committee among our team. It's something that has also grown over the last 5 or 6 years. And I've just found it to be so incredibly valuable for our team, for us as coaches, and for those leaders. But I think the energy absolutely starts with your leaders. There's no doubt about it. And we have guys on our leadership committee that are our #1 pitcher, our starting center fielder. And we got guys that are maybe sophomores that are our 4th string catcher. You know what I mean? But that's one thing that we really try to teach those leadership guys is having the awareness to know that as a leader, you're going to speak very loudly with your actions, and you create the atmosphere for our team. So I do think we as coaches can influence that indirectly and directly too. Obviously, as a coach, you need to show up and bring the energy yourself.
Yeah, no doubt.
You teach your leaders how to bring that positive energy every day. It's amazing how that multiplies across the team.
And it can be taught. I mean, you guys work on it. That's kind of where I was going. People come to a point where they don't know they can bring the energy like that every day. I mean, they don't know that they can give off vibes that can, get people in the right direction if they've got the right mindset and energy giver. That's awesome. I love that one. Did you have any more? I got those 3.
Yeah, our last core covenant sort of ties together all of them, and it's ownership. Maybe just a word, and I think it is just a word to some young teenage kids, the 16, 18-year-old kids that are moving on to college. They know what the word is. They might be able to define it, but I think sometimes it's hard for them to live that. When you're in college as a student and an athlete, there's going to be a lot of things that work against you a little bit. And I think as life continues to get more challenging, once we give up ownership and that's when we kind of lose control over what it is we want to achieve. You start blaming other people, start passing, responsibilities on other people. But for our kids, ownership, I think, starts in the classroom, understanding that their grades are earned. Sometimes you hear kids say, well, the teacher gave me a C. And it's like, man, no, you earned a C. And you earned an A too. So ownership, I think, is something that as a head coach, we try to catch one thing every day with our kids to say, that's a lesson in ownership. As big as, hey man, who left this medicine ball laying out? Who didn't re-rack the weights? Like, we need to own that. We need to own our appearance, our facilities, obviously our play, and our training too. I mean, right now is a perfect example. There's so many things working against our student athletes. Gyms have been closed, leagues have been canceled, access to everything, for kids the last number of months. How do you handle that? Do we just say, well, it sucks, I can't do anything? Or guys take ownership of, I'm gonna make a squat rack, right?
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna find a way to be creative and go out and run hill sprints because I know the only person who's in charge of how I prepare every day is me.
Perfect.
So ownership lessons, just if you have your eyes open, you'll see so many opportunities each and every day on the field and off the field to teach small ownership lessons for these young guys.
That's great. And how long have you been when COVID hit? How have you been in contact with your team since then? And then we'll kind of go into what was going on right before.
When I say we, I guess myself, I thought as a program and a team, we did a really good job communicating very consistently as soon as COVID hit. To be honest with you, probably the last month to 6 weeks, we communicate a lot less as a team. I feel like there's kids going in a lot of different directions right now, but I think when that initial shock hit, that's when the kids needed the most support.
Absolutely.
It was for us spring sport athletes. We were in Florida on our spring break trip. We flew home March 7th, not thinking anything of it. I mean, went to the airport. We were, in Florida, and just no big deal. And from between March 7th and when our season ended March 13th, like those 6 days was a free fall. So we were having a pretty good season. We were 9-4. We actually had some crazy things happen. One of our players passed away 2 weeks before our first game. We had a death of one of our freshman players at the end of January. So we were dealt, as devastating a 6-week period as I could ever remember for these young kids. So they needed support on so many levels. So we took to Zoom immediately within a week after. Well, we met with our whole team, then met with our seniors individually, and everybody had to scatter and get off campus. So we immediately jumped on Zoom, and we had anywhere from 2 to 4 meetings a week on a variety of different subjects. Some baseball related, some not baseball related. We provided them with some help in terms of strength and conditioning. And then we got our alumni involved. And we started getting some of our alumni twice a week on calls to just talk about their careers. We wanted to get our guys focused off of baseball and let's think about something else. Let's try to connect to some real life things and realize, hey man, we just lost our season, but there's more to life than baseball. Let's think ahead. If we can't have baseball, let's try to make ourselves better and learn about different careers and make connections to some alumni. So we did that for about 6 weeks. And then summer jobs and guys playing in summer leagues, people kind of scattered. So our communication with our guys has been on more of an individual basis the last 6 weeks, whereas, through March and April, it was more of a team.
Right. Right. And how many seniors did you have? I mean, it had to be so devastating to them.
Yeah, we had 11 seniors, all of which do have that 5th year to come back and play, but only 2 of our players are actually coming back. And I'm actually really proud of that, to be honest with you. We have 9 guys that kind of took, the pandemic ending their careers and we're able to kind of close the book and move on to the next chapter of their life. They all are either enrolled in grad school or have really good jobs lined up. So I'm really proud of them. And the other 2 guys actually have classes still to take, so they'll be back.
That's awesome.
But, for all other spring sport athletes, it wasn't just the seniors, but freshmen through juniors all have a 5th year too, and they have that decision to make at some point down the road.
Right. A lot of question marks still. I mean, I don't know when we'll get the answers to so many questions that we have, right?
Yeah, and the spring sport athletes were affected, but it's pretty likely that your fall sports and your winter sports are going to suffer some type of effect from this.
What was it, Harvard or Ivy League now? They're banging it, right?
They are, and my guess is that's one of the first dominoes to fall.
Oh yeah, that's a big domino, right? To usually, especially up north. I mean, you guys, they're going to be the trendsetter, right? Yeah,
they are. I just Division III. I think there's some conferences that have canceled some fall sports, and Division I and the SEC and the ACC and the Power Fives. That's a different animal unto itself. But it's hard to think that that anything is going to resemble normal athletics this fall.
No. And I think about, I coach wrestling too in high school, and I've got 3 kids that I've had since 7th grade. And, you build those relationships and you don't think about, not having a senior night. And now that's very possible. And it's still 6 months away.
It's hard to digest. Even as we continue to move on with it, it's still hard to process.
It really is. It really is. So let's take our mind off that and get a little bit mindset. Well, I will say this: your 4 core values. I mean, Zoom is a great way, and over this period to incorporate all 4 of those still, right?
Yeah, it is. There's many ways. One of the things that, in terms of mental training and applying our core values, one of the things that we do is we try to get into some literature for our team. We try to pick a book each year for our guys to read during the wintertime. And then that kind of kickstarts our spring. Our January, February, we spend 1 to 2 meetings a week, team meetings, discussing the mental side, mental training, and also how it relates to the books that we're reading. Some of the books that we've read are very baseball specific. Some of them are just have nothing to do with baseball. They're more life books, mental toughness books. So that's been a pretty good tool. Now, does that make everybody mentally tougher because they read a book? No. But I'm a firm believer when it comes to mental training. It's like any other training, I think, that's new to kids. You'll get about a third of our team that they're all in, man. They take all those lessons, they try to live them out, and they apply them to the game. I think we have another third of our team that they'll go through it, they'll listen to it, but maybe not able to apply it. And then you have some other, maybe a third of your team that's just like, nah, that's all right, I don't need that. No. And I think one of the things that you had asked me, what percentage of baseball would you consider mental? And my answer to that is it depends on the guy. I think that's the truth for every sport. You got some people that can just go out and compete on autopilot, right? I don't know if that's confidence or just they get in the free flow state better and quicker than everybody else. Then you have some other people that are very cerebral in how they play any game. So I think the mental game exists in baseball as much as it does in any other sport. But to what extent, I think it varies from guy to guy.
Absolutely. That's a great answer. I've never heard it that way, and it makes a lot of sense because everybody's different. Everybody's unique. I mean, it may be 100% mental for one athlete and not 10 for another because he's just got it all under control anyway. That's a great point, Coach.
Yeah. I think if you watch The Last Dance, how much of the game was mental for Jordan? I think certainly he was very cerebral, but more on the motivational side. When they threw that ball up and said, let's play basketball, how much of it was mental for him? He played, man. He just competed, right?
He's going to kill you. He's trying to win. Anything to win.
Yeah. His mental, how he played the game mentally was a fuel, was a fire. For some kids, it's an obstacle, right? The mental game is a barrier. But that's why I think the degree of mental, discipline that's required to play a sport varies from guy to guy. That's why I suck at golf, right? And other guys, golfers, it's like it looks so natural because the mental game is not a factor for them. They've managed it, they've mastered it.
Right. It takes a lot of time to master that, though. 10,000 hours, right? Gotta master anything.
So they say, yeah.
Right. So talk about some strategies. You talked about the book. Your team book. I think that's some mental training. Absolutely. Is there anything, any routines or deep breathing or any kind of stuff you do to teach other aspects of mental
I think
awareness?
In sport, and even more specifically in baseball, visualization is huge. Maybe because of the pace of the game, right? There's that 20-second delay between every pitch. And that is where players have to win in the game of baseball. That 20 seconds between pitches, wow, the things that can go on in your mind. They can be positive, negative. How you fuel, how you talk to yourself during those 20 seconds between pitches is huge. And that differs. That's what separates baseball and, in my opinion, makes it much more cerebral. Hockey, you don't got 20 seconds between, you got to go, man. In basketball, you got to go. Sure, there's whistles and line changes and things, but you don't have time to stop and analyze every single thing, whereas in baseball you do. So the slower pace and more downtime, I think, makes the game a lot more cerebral as it relates to golf as well. Hit a shot, you've got 5 minutes between shots where you got to walk to that. Man, what can go on in your head? If that shot was good or bad, right? So those slower moving sports can be more challenging mentally, in my opinion. So visualization is huge. What you're seeing happen before it happens, not just in game, but in the off season, right? So visualization is something we need to do a better job at in our program, and specifically me as a head coach. It's something I believe in, but it's not something I've been able to help our players master. It's something we talk about. We try to practice, but I don't necessarily have a here's the key to visualization.
Right.
That's something I'm still learning. Breathing as well. I think they go hand in hand, especially during that downtime between pitches in the game of baseball. How we're breathing can really influence our physical state as well as our mental state. So again, something that I feel we need to continue to get better at, me as a coach and us as a program. It's something we do, we acknowledge, we encourage our players to practice, but probably need to do a better job of training it more frequently. Breathing and visualization for me and how it applies to the game of baseball are the two big ones.
Well, and you think about it, as a baseball coach, you have so much you have to put in. I mean, there's so many little things that people may be aware of or not aware of, and there's just so many little things that make a big deal. And you know, you're a baseball expert. You're not the mindset expert. You're not going to spend hours and hours on that, but you do understand it's important, and you're given the guys like a key to open a door. Hey, you can open this door right here, and it's going to be a pretty good door if you can get it figured out, because you know, that voice inside your head is very powerful.
It certainly is. That's really the separator, right, between great players and professionals. There's so many talented athletes out there in every sport, but to get to the top, become a pro, just managing, you know, the mental state.
Good stuff. That's good, man. And I like the way it can tie into with your core values. I mean, you guys are set up. You've got your values. You know what you believe in. You go after it. Have some success. You're building that foundation, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. And I hope that you can get back on the baseball field real soon, because I know you're itching, because I know I'm itching.
Yeah, one of the things you mentioned, as a small college coach, we do have to be the mental coach and the recruiting coach and the fundraising coach and the third base coach and all that stuff.
Got to cut the grass sometimes.
Before, you know, being able to coach at the Division II level, you got to wear many hats.
Right.
A little bit different than, you know, some of those Power 5 opportunities, but I'm thankful for that. You know, it's allowed me to grow and teach more than just pitching and hitting and base stealing, because those are things that are going to help these guys well after college, for a lot of the reasons we mentioned. You know, the benefits of being a student athlete and being exposed to these types of training and core values and things when they're young. I really think it translates to guys being great husbands, great teachers, great police officers, fathers, all those things down the road.
Yeah. Building that virtue, man. It's important. They have to have a good way to live their life and understand when they make mistakes. People still love them. They can improve on it. Just learn from it and keep moving forward, never falling back. I think that's the message of life, right?
Yeah, I agree. That's a great message.
So anything else that you want to kind of wrap us up with? I know our time's fleeing, and I really appreciate it. And if there's anything I can ever do for your team personally, let me know. I'd love to jump on and do some calls. You know, I'd love to help you out.
The Zoom has been great, you know, podcasts and everything that's going on right now, at least in the baseball community. I'm sure it's the same in all sports. This has been a great time as a coach to learn. We can't be on the road and recruit, so we got to get better somehow. And for me, I'm trying to connect with as many coaches as possible. And there's a lot going on. You know, you can find a pitching Zoom call or hitting or fielding or anything any night of the week. But this is the bread and butter for me. Like, this is where I'm sinking my teeth into, because I think it's the separator, you know, the mental game. So much of the game of baseball, and I think most sports, is now data-driven, right? Technology has allowed us to view sports in a whole different light. I mean, you see it in baseball. Like, baseball's a boring game now, right? Because you can shift and, you know, every single metric there is. It makes the game more challenging and, in my opinion, more boring. So this is on the other side of data, right?
Right.
This is more of what's going on between the ears. And for me, like, you need that. There's a little bit of old school still in sports, and comes down to toughness and grit. You know, I know the statistics say what they say, and we're also hooked on data. But at the end of the day, I think what's in your heart and what's in your head, I mean, you can overcome.
Powerful.
Yeah, you can overcome some of this data-driven technology in sport. So
no doubt about that. I love that. That's good stuff right there. Have you read our book, Predator versus Prey Mindset?
No, I have not.
Okay.
I have not.
So I can get you a copy. See if I can get you a copy in the mail. How
That
about
would
that?
be fantastic. I would appreciate that.
I'll text you, get your address, and hey, maybe that could be something you guys did next time. You do the Predator Prey book. I mean, I'm not telling you what to do, but it's a great book.
Yeah, I'd be open to considering that for our team. I know we have a lot of kids on the team that have kind of adopted the mindset of reading to kind of grow their mental toughness. So yeah, we can suggest that to our leadership committee and some other guys.
Well, that's great. And if there's any, like I said, if there's anything we can do for you, let me know. I want this, Brian Cain. Everybody talks about Brian Cain. I'm not knocking him because I listen to him too, but I think baseball mindset, we've got something that, like you said, the key ingredient. We believe mindset makes a difference, and when we put these processes in place by realizing the mistakes we're making, we can fix it, and that's for anybody, and it's suited for anybody. We're going to make it unique for you or your program. So that was our cheap plug for today.
Chase, thanks a lot, man. I absolutely just loved talking with you for the last 20, 30 minutes, and looking forward to a continued relationship.
Yes, sir. And we'll connect soon. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thanks a lot.
You're good.